Hello and welcome to another video of RunGB. It's been a while, and that's because a couple of weeks ago my hard drive had a problem and I had to, well, get the computer fixed. Took almost a full week. I lost everything in the hard drive, so well, it's taking a while to get things up to speed again, but here we are again. And here we are again with something new. Well, something new for the channel, not really in the gaming community because this game has been going on for a while. Warships. Now, a lot of you will be surprised because I have several times been very critical about this game, and yeah, I'm very critical about this game, and for a reason. I'll enter into that later on. But yeah, it has been brought to my attention that I was being extremely critical with a game that I wasn't playing. And that may not be that fair. After all, this is a free-to-play game. So I was approached by someone, he doesn't want to be named, who told me that if I was to try this game, he would give me 2,500 runs and I would be able to try it out for a week with a premium account. So, well, I went ahead, gave it a try, and I'm making this video to sum up my opinions about the game. I'm going to start by saying that the game is better than what I thought, but is still far off from what this game could have been. I'm going to try to sum my opinions up in pros and cons, with some gameplay in the background so you can see me derping around in Warships. Now, the first thing you have to understand is that I'm not, repeat, and strongly repeat, I'm not a defender of simulation gameplay for multiplayer games. At least not in some kind of games. For instance, naval games. A World War II naval combat could last easily 4 hours, 5 hours, even days. The naval combat of Jutland in World War I actually lasted for a whole afternoon, evening, night, and morning. Of course, you are not going to get that into a multiplayer game because people have lives. They don't have 5 hours to spend in front of a computer to play a single battle. So you need faster pace. You can't get a realistic simulator with naval assets in a game, in a multiplayer game at least. In single player is different. But for a multiplayer game, faster pacing is required, and as such, realism is thrown of the window because of course you can't get realism if you are fastening things so much. Now, while I'm not a defendant of simulation and realism in multiplayer games, I'm a strong proponent of immersion. Now, what do I mean by immersion? Immersion is a different thing than realism. Realism is having everything just like it was in real life. Well, that's not going to work out for a game like this. But immersion is different. Immersion means that what you see in the game, even while it's not realistic, resembles what happened in real life. Resembles. Doesn't have to be the same. There's room for balancing, gameplay concessions, fast pacing, etc. There's a whole room for toying with things to make things fun and faster paced than in a full realistic game. And my main gripe with World of Warships is that it could have been that extremely immersive game, but it wasn't. And it wasn't because Wargaming chose not to do it. So, a good instance for a good example of a game which is not realistic at all, but is extremely immersive, and is why I love it so much, is naval action. Naval action is not realistic at all. At all. The ships accelerate, decelerate, turn too fast. They repair things that in real life you couldn't repair, but it works. It works because real life tactics work in the game. Faster paced, whatever, but they work. What worked in real life worked in here. If you see a combat of naval action, you get a good idea of how it was naval fighting in the Age of Sail. If you watch a World War ships gameplay, you get absolutely no idea of how World War II ships fought because they didn't fight like they do in the game. That's what I mean. That's my main gripe with the game. Now, say that this is a game. Games are intended to be fun. Is it fun? Well, yes, Yes, it is. I have to give them that. They have made a fun-to-play game, but they are a lot of problems. I'm going to start by saying the negatives first, because of course I guess I have this reputation of being a complainer. So complaints first, okay? The first thing is that, as I said, it's not immersive. You see a battle of World of Warships, it doesn't resemble World War II fighting at all. At all. You see ships zigzagging all around the place with laser-guided rangefinder aiming. It's simply ships didn't fight like this. It's just like that, and there are a lot of reasons for that. But I'm going to try to mention them as we move along. I think in this game we have a problem with the different classes. They are not well balanced. Destroyers are god mode, especially Japanese ones. It's like having a Romulan cloaking device ship with long range one ship wonder weapons on board. Really, they are. I mean, with those detection ranges, those kinds of weapons, and the way the game is designed, destroyers are far too powerful, especially Japanese ones. Cruisers is the same. I mean, they have so fast a fire rate, and the damage model is shaped up in a way that they do ungodly amounts of damage they shouldn't do. I'm going to talk about it later on as well. And as a result, the battleship, which technically was the queen of the seas back then, well, it's a joke. Battleships are a joke in this game. They are extremely underpowered, and it's a pity it is, because you have this mammoth of a ship with massive guns, and you think you are going to rule the waves, and of course what you are not going to do is to charge upon the mid of the map and survive that, because that's not expected. That's not what I'm talking about. But battleships feel, yeah, super underpowered, and for several reasons as well, and I'm going to mention them later on. And finally, there are carriers, and carriers are artillery. Essentially, they are the easy mode of this game. Wargaming has this knack of making a class which is easy mode, like long range, you can't touch me. It was artillery in War of Tanks, it's carriers in here. Hard to say, however, the carriers have a lot more into it than just point and clicking, which is really good. At least it's not the easy mode artillery of War of Tanks, in which was just point click and one-hit wonders. No, you really have to plan and apply tactics to be a good carrier driver, which is kind of at least a welcome addition. It's a very nice change. The behavior of the ships is really weird. I mean, ships don't behave like this. You get a destroyer in real life at full speed, you put it into a hard turn with full rudder, it's going to drift, but it's going to slow down so much, it's going to set most of its speed from 30 knots to maybe 12, 13 knots after the turn is done. Here it doesn't happen. I mean, yeah, you have the drifting action, ships slow down a little bit when they turn, but they don't slow down enough, and as a result what you have here is like Tokyo racing cars, which are drifting all around the place. Destroyers drift. Each time I put a destroyer into a closed turn is oh my gosh, no, ships don't behave like this. No, I don't know why do you call this World of Warships and then you put Tokyo drifting racing cars on it. I don't get it. This is like Super Mario Kart with guns. No, they don't behave like this, and it's easy to fix and it wouldn't require a lot. I mean, it's changing the model of the hard turns. If you turn at high speeds and you put a full rudder turn, you set half your speed. You don't set maybe 4 knots. No, you set your full 2/3 of your speed, a half of your speed, and that would make things a lot easier when dealing with destroyers. But again, we are going to talk about it later. The damage model, I have several problems with it. On one hand, it's really good, and I'm going to speak about it later on as well. But on another, I don't like the compromises made up. Simply don't. First of all, battleship cells feel like pellet guns for the most part. I mean, battleship guns have one quality. They do massive, massive amounts of damage if you achieve a citadel penetration. But the problem is that the battleship guns have a huge dispersion. So you can't guarantee that you are going to hit the citadel. It depends on the random number generation. If RNG doesn't favor you, you can aim perfectly that you are not going to hit the citadel. And you're going to do maybe 1000 damage, 2000 damage. Well, with a cruiser you can do that. But the problem is that with a cruiser you are shooting each 7 seconds, 8 seconds. With a battleship you shoot each 30 seconds. So, in one hand you have this machine gun, which is a cruiser, which fires, I don't know, maybe 10 shots per gun per minute, doing essentially the same damage you get most of the time out of a battleship gun. As a result, battleships are, oh, they are so god awful. When you, I'm going to say it, when you get the citadel hit, it's like ding 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 jackpot. You feel like god. But the problem is you can't guarantee that. And I'm a strong proponent if you are skilled enough and you know how to aim and you point your aim perfectly, then the random damage number generation shouldn't punish you. Because if you have the perfect aiming solution, you should achieve your hits. Well, here not. If you aim perfectly, maybe you get your citadel hit, maybe you don't. And if RNG decides to screw you up, you're screwed, and you are going to do silly amounts of damage with massive guns. We are speaking about 12, 14, 15, 16-inch guns here. And yeah, the damage is so underwhelming. It's either you get a citadel crit, which is amazing damage, or you are getting shitty damage. And again, that helps with the battleships feeling like underpowered shit, but whatever. High explosive, I think, does far too much damage. Especially when you hit in armored components. Uh, this is a problem because, again, if you are thinking about a cruiser, there's one thing. Why was the battleship the king of the seas until the carrier came along? Because he had huge guns that would blow any cruiser out of the water with a few hits. Meanwhile, the cruiser would be able to do very limited damage back. Well, here is not the same, because the cruiser is able to do massive amount of damage in a very short time span. It's damage over time, but it counts, it adds up, especially because a battleship usually can't deal with a cruiser unless he's really lucky with the RNG and he gets his citadel criticals. But again, it's nothing guaranteed. The cruiser is guaranteed to make a shitload of damage on a battleship, but the battleship has to get lucky to do the same with the cruiser. So doesn't feel right. It's not right, and that's probably because the high explosive is far too damaging, and over time that adds up. And again, it's a thing of guaranteeing things. With a cruiser, you have much more accurate guns. You are going to get your hits, and each hit is going to do a little bit of damage. It's not going to be as much as a citadel hit with a battleship gun, but it's going to add up over time. It's guaranteed damage over time. Meanwhile, the battleship is like the golden hit thing. If you get your hit, you are going to do massive amount of damage. But if RNG screws you up, you are fucked up. And that's not fair. That's not really good. I don't think, at least. Also, fire model. I don't like it. I don't like it. I guess it's kind of something you would think about. Well, you get a fire adds damage over time, blah blah blah, whatever. The problem is when fires are so easy to achieve, are extremely easy to get a. It's really easy to get an enemy ship on fire. When setting an enemy ship on fire is so easy, you can't attach such a heavy hit point bonus to it. Because if the guy doesn't have a repair ready, you are going to get a shitload of damage points. And I mean, fires are really a problem in ships. But again, the bigger the ship, the smaller the problem. And I have this idea that probably fire should be maybe half as damaging, but put maluses or penalties on other areas of the ship. If your ship is on fire, your crew is trying to get the ship, fires out. They are not focused on fire or whatever. So maybe reducing the damage over time of fire and increasing the penalties. Maybe the ship doesn't turn as well. Maybe you lose a little bit of aiming. Maybe you lose a little bit of reload. That kind of stuff. That would help. But I think fires are a little bit out of hand right now. As for the overall gameplay, we have a problem here, and that's in this game, torpedoes dominate everything. And again, we are going back to World War II combat. In World War II, the torpedo wasn't as dominant a weapon as it is in this game. In this game, essentially, the side which uses torpedoes, be it cruiser launcher, destroyer launcher, or air launcher by carrier torpedo bombers, the side which uses torpedoes better is going to win no matter what. Historically, torpedoes were important, but not this massively important. And the problem is not with the torpedoes themselves. I mean, the torpedoes are mostly well modeled. The problem is that the gameplay itself is oriented towards close range combat. And it's not well balanced in that sense. And I'm going to enter into that in a little bit later. But when you have there's no room for long range combat in this game. There's not. Because the guns which can fire at very long ranges and are supposed to rule the long range combat are the battleship guns. But the battleship guns have such a huge dispersion that the longer range you fire at, the more dispersion you are going to get, and the more dependent you are in RNG, and the less you can guarantee that you are going to achieve results. Firing at long range with a battleship is an exercise in fullness, because you are going to miss everything, unless you are godly lucky and you get some criticals at very long ranges. So there's a huge shift of gameplay towards short range combat. But we have this problem, and it's that at short range torpedoes dominate, but secondary guns are not well balanced. If you watch this gameplay, you will see that you see different ranges on different ships. You see 12 kilometers, 3 kilometers, 2 kilometers, whatever. Ranges are scaled down in this game. What you see as 2 kilometers really looks like maybe 500 meters. So you have much closer ranges than what you actually get into the tags. That's of course a gameplay change to pace up the game, because otherwise if you had ships at 12 kilometers from each other, it would take maybe 1 hour for them to draw close and games would take forever. This is a good compromise. So you scale down the ranges even while you still name them as 3 kilometers, 2 kilometers, etc. But the problem is that everything is not well scaled. Okay, so you have torpedoes with 10 kilometer range, but it has secondary guns in battleships with 3.5 kilometers of range, at least in the early, up to tier 5 battleships and cruisers. Now, secondary guns in real life have exactly the same range as the same guns on a cruiser. If in a cruiser, one 6-inch gun can fire at 10 kilometers, why a secondary gun can only fire at 3.5? Also, 3.5 kilometers is a death sentence. If you have a destroyer at 3 kilometers from you, your secondary guns are useless. You are dead, because those torpedoes are going to smash you to Kingdom Come. So, secondary guns are totally useless. Absolutely useless. They are worthless. Maybe in very high tier games with secondary guns with ranges of 7-8 kilometers, things change a little bit. But for the most part, this game is played in low tiers, medium tiers. It's the same as War Tanks. If you want to make money, you have to play tanks up to tier 8 at the most. Tier 9, tier 10 is going to cost you money, unless you are extremely good, and you have a premium. So in this is the same. You are going to play a lot in the medium tiers, and in the medium tiers, secondary guns are totally useless. They are worthless. They are going to protect you of nothing at all. If you have a destroyer into secondary gun range, you are dead anyway, because the destroyer is going to drop torpedoes and you can't avoid them. So there's so much dominance of the torpedo, and that's because it's not well modeled. I mean, in real life, torpedoes had a blocking mechanism. That was they would get armed after maybe 800 meters of running. The problem is, in this game, 800 meters is nothing. So maybe you should scale up that short range arming mechanism. So a destroyer which is just beside you can drop torpedoes and instant destroy you. Those torpedoes would need a little bit of time running before arming up. For instance, there's secondary guns need to change. Battleship guns need to change. Cruiser guns probably need to change as well. There's everything is shifted into close range combat, and in close range combat, the cruisers and the destroyers are the dominant guns, and the dominant things, and battleships are totally left out. Which again is a sad side, because in real life, battleships were the most powerful enemies. But whatever. More things I don't really like. Well, I don't like teams. I don't like players, but I can't say that's a problem with the game. And there are a lot of devs playing this game, and I've lost the count of games I've done extremely well where my team totally derped out, and that's a problem because in World of Tanks you could have a derp team and still you would be able to carry your team to victory. If you were skilled enough, you were good enough, and if you were, well, yeah, there was always a chance, especially with certain tanks. You had a very good chance to achieve a carry. In this game, you can't. Well, yes, you can carry your team, but it's much more difficult and much less skill dependent. There are a lot of other factors involved. Skill counts a lot, but carries are much harder to do. As a result, no matter how well you've done, and I'm not kidding, I have done games with 5 kills, 140,000 damage done, several high caliber, first blood, whatever, a lot of achievements, and still I lost the game because my team didn't do shit. I killed half the enemy team, still the enemy team won. And that's because you can't do everything. And in World of Tanks, if you have a fast enough tank, you usually are able to carry your team to victory. Is it a bad thing? Well, not really. That means that maybe teamwork is more important in this game than in World of Tanks. But at the same time, teamwork, multiplayer games, free-to-play games. You're not going to get a lot of team play in random games, honestly. So yeah, it's a little bit annoying to have games out of your range to win because your team simply won't win the game no matter what you do. So I think in this game there's a lot of you need to approach this game with a different mentality. It's not about winning or losing games. It's about your personal contribution. If you do well in the game, it's a win no matter what for you. The rewards, of course, are not going to be the same, but yeah, that's life. More things I don't really like: the maps. And it's not that the maps are badly designed. They are beautiful to watch. They are nice to watch actually, and they are very fun to play in. And they are well balanced for the most part. The problem is that in these kind of games, you usually have maps which are both balanced but allow for different styles of game. And it happened in World of Tanks. In World of Tanks, you would have zones which were CQC, close range mostly, where you would have a lot of close range action with a lot of popping up, shoot and scoot, that kind of stuff. And then you will have very long areas where long range fire would count a lot, where TDs would dominate. And I think that's I think that is not going on in this game right now. In this game, in most maps, almost all of them except for one, I think, which is called Ocean, which is nothing but open sea. But in all the other maps with so many islands, so many things, there's no truly long range area. So in order to do long range combat, what you need to do is to stay back very close to your spawn. It's not that you can advance into a zone where long range combat is favored, because it's not like that. Most of the maps are tailored again to close range brawling. and with that you are smashing the long range engagements. And again, then you are putting a lot of influx in the short range weapons, torpedoes, which rule this game. Torpedoes destroy everything they touch. So they rule this game. And that probably is also a problem not only of the ranges, as we mentioned, that the ranges of the secondary guns are not enough, that the torpedoes don't have a proper arming distance, which is adjusted to the different ranges that we have in the game compared with real life, with all of that stuff. Um, Everything is so shifted into close range combat that makes close range specialists excellent ships, but makes long range specialists, and this includes whole classes, battleships, they make them irrelevant. Because yeah, you can stay with a battleship at long range all game long, but you are going to achieve absolutely nothing. Because you are going to hit very little because of the RNG issues. Second, whatever you hit, most of it is not going to really do a lot of damage unless you do a critical hit on a citadel. And again, that depends on your luck, not on your skill. So yeah, I don't know. I don't like it. This is a part of the game I find very annoying. Yeah, those are a lot of things that I don't like, don't I? Yeah, it's been a long thing. But yeah, now it's time to speak about the things I do like about the game. First of all, it's fun. With all those annoyances I have mentioned before, and all things that need, in my opinion, they would need a very long list of fixes. Even then, it's fun. Even then, it's fun. Especially if you are in one of the fan ships. There's nothing more fun than having a Japanese destroyer with a cloaking device on and spreading torpedoes like love and destroying everything you love torpedoes at. It's very fun. It is. It's fast-paced. It works for the most part. In the close range engagements, things work well. The problem is from medium to long ranges. It's not compensated. You need to have a game where long range is effective. As I'm not going to say as effective as close range, but at least effective. So long range specialists have a place in the game. Right now there isn't. Also another thing, the spotting mechanisms of this game. Yeah, I just spoke about the Japanese cloaking devices for the destroyers. Really, I get that a destroyer you should see from closer than a battleship, but the problem is that you are able to see them when they are so close that you are going to get torpedoed no matter what. And that's a problem. The problem is, you see a destroyer, a Japanese destroyer, you will see it at 6 kilometers of range. Well, at that range, you are guaranteed to be torpedoed. And if you are in a battleship, you are dead. Because you simply can't. If the guy knows how to do his stuff, it's a dead battleship. I have killed battleships left and right with Japanese destroyers, essentially because they are unstoppable. And with American destroyers as well. I mean, any destroyer really, once you get at 6 kilometers from a battleship, you are in. Of course, well, then you can speak that this is gameplay related with teamwork, because then you need spotters to spot the destroyers. But whatever, in real life, a destroyer wasn't invisible at 5 kilometers of range. Come on. A destroyer you could see at 15 kilometers. I'm not saying it should be the same in the game, but the ranges where you can spot destroyers are far too short. Maybe Japanese destroyers 8 kilometers, American destroyers 9 kilometers. And that's the bare minimum. You need more range. You need a bigger safety net. Essentially, you need to give everyone a fair chance to survive if they are skilled enough and they are facing a destroyer attacking them. Because right now, if you are in a big ship that is not especially maneuverable and a destroyer comes for you, really, you are going to get wrecked 90% of the times. So, yeah. But well, we were saying this is about the pros, the things I like. It's fun paced, it's involved. You really feel like clicking to battle again, which essentially means that the basics of the game are working well. All the things I have mentioned before are mostly things that don't work well within the framework of the game, and they should work. So there's a lot of room for improvement, a lot, and honestly, a lot of it, if it doesn't work currently, is because Wargaming has decided not to go that way, and that's why I'm angry at them. But they have a core of game that works, and works well, and it's surprising because I didn't think it would work this well. It's really fun to play. Yeah, it's very pretty. Models are really beautiful. The colors are very nice to see. It's not really realistic looking. Let's put it that way. But it's beautiful. Beautiful. It's pretty. It's pretty to watch. It's yeah. It's you like watching the screen as the game unfolds because graphics are really nice. It's engaging, really. It hooks you really into the game. You finish a battle after doing really well or really bad, and you feel like giving it another go. Let's see if I can repeat my success, or oh damn, I did so bad in last game. Let's see if I can do better this time. This is one of these games that has the let's play one more. Okay, there's a lot of strategy games where there's this little problem, which is the one turn more syndrome, which I'll play just one turn more, and 5 hours later you are still playing one turn more. And this game is very similar. It's like, well, one more battle is 15 minutes. Let's play one more. And then one more, and after 4 hours you say, holy shit, I have spent all the fucking evening playing this thing. So yeah, it really hooks you, and that means that it works. It's surprising how well and in deep modeled are the ships, and it's surprising because the damage model doesn't make it justice. You get all these warships with very accurate hitboxes, very accurate citadel models, where the actual ship machinery it will be in the game, where the real life magazines they will be in the game. All the guns are individually modeled, you can knock them out. The propulsion, the steering, everything, the guns, the placements, secondary guns, anti-aircraft guns, everything can be hit and destroyed individually. There's a shitload of work going on into that for all the ships that there are in the game. And for the most part, and this is surprising because in a game like this, with so many different ships, so far there are quite a lot of ships, I have not found a single hitbox problem, which is surprising because most games do have hitbox problems in some of their models, even when they are after release. So I'm not saying there are no hitbox bugs in the game. I'm only saying that I have found none. So it's surprising how well modeled they are. Especially so because I think this detail it's wasted by the damage model. Really, it is. But it's very nice to have this game a game with so much detail going into those things. I like that skill has a place in the game. As I said before, tactical decisions are extremely important in this game. You really need to take a look in the minimap and make your decisions judging your team composition, the enemy team composition. Matchmaking right now doesn't work very well, but it's to be expected. It's in beta. I guess still the player base is not big enough to produce good enough matchmaking most of the time, but it's not far off. I mean, yeah, now and then you get totally shit matchmaking that you can't do crap against, but for the most part, matchmaking can fuck up things, but skill wins matchmaking fucks. Which in War of Tanks wasn't like that. In War of Tanks, if you got screwed by matchmaking, 90% of the time you were going to lose no matter what. In this game, if you are skilled enough, matchmaking can make your life difficult, but still you have a shot at winning. And that's because, and I like it, tiers don't scale up as much as they do in War of Tanks. In War of Tanks, you get a tier 4 tank versus a tier 5 tanks, you are dead. unless the tier 5 is absolutely idiot, and of course it happens a lot. But for the most part, tiering in World of Tanks is massive, massive. It's a huge, huge quality leap. In this game, not so much. One tier up, yeah, you get a better ship, yeah, you get better quality, but you are not guaranteed to win against a smaller ship. And that's something I like a lot. Skill matters more than tiering. Skill has a place in the game. If you are good enough, you have good enough reflexes to react to everything that's going on, if you have good situational awareness, that's going to count a lot more than the ship you are driving. And that's really good in my book. And that I like a lot about the game. I love games that reward skill, and this one does. At least in the first person aspect. Again, carries are very hard. So even if you do a shitload of damage and you kill a lot of enemies, maybe your team will derp out anyway. But in what regards to the first person experience of doing a lot of damage or not, is more based on skill than in anything else. With one exception, Battleships. I've spoken a lot about that. In Battleship, you can do all the good calls, you can do all the good things, you can aim perfectly, you can lead perfectly your fire when you are fighting at enemy ships, you can place yourself perfectly. If RNG wants to get you, it will get you. And whatever your results are more based on what the RNG has decided than what you have actually accomplished in the game. It's all about getting those citadel hits, and honestly, with dispersions of 200 meters per gun and guns firing once each 30 seconds, really, it just depends on whether the RNG wants to favor you or not. That's it. But other than the battleships, all the rest of classes are very skill reliant. And if you are skilled, you are going to get very good games. Even if you lose a game, but you are going to get very good results. And that's something that not in World of Tanks happened sometimes, but not always. Because Mr. Artilleryman would lob a shot at you and ruin your game, whether you were doing well or not, but whatever. I think that tactically speaking is more deep than other wargaming games. World of Warplanes, well, I'm not going to even comment on that one. In World of Tanks, there were a lot of setup tactics for each map. That would work most of the times. You would know where to go, where to hide, which were the good places to be in, to snipe from, to hide from, etc. In this game, it's not like that. In this game, in one game, you can have a huge, huge game in one particular spot of one particular part of one map. But in the next game, in the same map, you can go there and have a totally different experience because it's much more flexible and fluid. Depends on what the composition of the enemy team is and what do you have coming for you when you are at that particular spot. So, tactically speaking, all the maps have a lot more going into tactical thinking. There's no golden places. There's no golden hill where the TD goes up there and hides behind a bush with a camonet and can fire at everything on the map. No, no, no. There's no place like that. There's no golden place. There's no golden rule for any map. Each map plays different each time you fight in it, and that's huge. I like it a lot because allows for a lot of variety, and that's really good because right now there are a lot of maps yet, at least not in the tiers have played so far. I'm up to tier 5 in the Japanese DDs, and in everything else I'm tier 4 more or less. In the maps I have experienced, well, there are not a lot of maps, but the thing is that even if it's the same map, the game will be totally different each time you play in it. It adds a lot of enjoyment into the game. And well, yeah, well, there are a lot of things I like, there are a lot of things I dislike that I haven't mentioned, but I think this is going to be it for this video. All in all, I will say, and summing up, I think that my critics about this game were right on spot. I think that Wargaming could have done a lot more with this game. I'm not losing hope that they will do a lot more with this game, especially if I'm only asking them to do one thing. and this game will be much better than what it currently is. To balancing things out, so medium to long range counts as well, because right now it doesn't. Right now everything is close range. If they get that sorted out, well, this game will be much better than what I expected. It's actually much better than what I expected it to be. I'm gonna be totally honest. But still, I think there's a lot of things that it hasn't got right, and it should, especially in what it goes for immersion. Really, and I'm going to especially do videos about this. I'm going to the History and Myths series is going to go on. I'm going to make some videos about how historical ships fought, and then I'm going to make history and myths about some ships of the era, the Yamato, the Bismarck, the Iowa, because there are a lot of ships of World War II that have a very huge halo of myth around them, which needs to be breathed. But of course, first I need to speak about how ships of the era fought. And when I do those videos, you will find how different it was, how real life ships fought from what is in this game. And again, you can have historical immersion without realism and still have a arcade game, fast paced, very fun to play. And in that regard, World Warships doesn't feel the bill. And it could, and it should. Because if it could, it should. It's like that. It would be so much better that way. But even then, I'm surprised because it's better than what I expected. I'm going to say that's straightforward. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed the gameplay. As you see, well, I'm doing pretty well in this game already. I probably will make some World of Warships video on top of the Naval Action ones and on top of the History and Myths one, now that I'm back on making videos. As always, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much for watching and see you later.